ensemble. So what I'm going to do right now is help you prepare for these 2 assignments. You have this philosophy that you're trying to construct, and these are just questions to get you started. Remember, I want it to be your philosophy, your perspective. It's not so important that you agree with everything else. What's the most important about this is getting your ideas down on paper, so then you can look at them objectively and then modify those ideas as time goes along. I used to think this, but now I think this. And that whole process is fantastic. It's okay to change your thinking a little bit in one direction or another. Matter of fact, that will be a sign of growth for you guys. And that will change. The more you read and the more experience you have, the more these things will change. So, in a typical high school setting, I'm going to start right here. And I'll draw this diagram, and I think this helps you. This is your program. And we're going to use a secondary school example, but this is your program, and this will be choir. Your program. And then what we want to look at is how many people are involved in this program. Who has an interest in this choral program in a public school setting? So what would you say? Who is involved? Let's just find all the parties involved in your choral program in a public school.
So more specific than students, like what type
Well,
of
no, that would be
students?
exactly. We're just looking for the obvious.
Oh. Okay.
So here you might have, let's say, the school students are involved.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
okay.
students are involved in your choral program.
Right.
Whatever your philosophy is, whatever is guiding you to put this program together, who is participating in it and in what ways? And then most importantly, we're going to talk about why. Why are they participating in your program? That's going to have a lot to do with your philosophy. Who else? Beside the students, who's involved?
Administration.
Yeah, administration. The administration is involved in your program. The parents. Okay, and we'll use this word.
Yeah.
So that's going to involve parents. We'll make sure that includes, and we'll just put it here, parent. Okay. So now we have your choral program, and we've already, these 3 are involved. Who else is involved here? And maybe this is more difficult for you to think about at this point, but so far we've looked at several professional journals, you've researched articles, and you went to conference here last month. Several of you went and shared ideas with other.
So the professional
Okay,
community.
so you have professionals, other professionals. These are people that you might write an article for, or you might share your research with, or you might do you might be a clinician for a group of these people, and that's all part of your choral program. Or you might be the president of a choral organization for your state or for your region. You might be involved in that. So these are all things that are involved in your choral program. But there's one major one that we're missing. We left somebody out. Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
This is you. This is you.
I missed that post.
And you are somewhat involved in your own program. Okay, so you can see the reason we're drawing it out this way is because your philosophy probably, if you're going to be effective at what it is that you do, then would you consider all of these different points of view as you develop your philosophy? Or would it just be you? Are you only transmitting ideas to the rest of the world, or are you also receiving input from the rest of the world that influences what you teach?
What
What
I
do
would
you think?
I would think the immature teacher student would think, oh, it's all about me. It's what I want out of my program, versus a more learned teacher, more experienced teacher, more mature, would realize I have just as much say in my program as the administration does, or the parents do, or the students do,
Okay.
or what is socially accessible in my program by other professionals.
So, are you going to be considerate? You're going to be considerate of what these people think as you develop your philosophy? Are you concerned about what the students think and feel about your program? Yes, and what are their best interests? So, let's just take the students for example. Why might they be in your program? What would be a benefit for a student to be in your program? Why were you in chorus or music in your high school?
Because they were people I identified with.
Okay, exactly. So let's call that social. I was in chorus because that's where all the girls were. That's social, right? But there's lots of different social interactions. In school, were any of your programs a little bit cliquish? There were the music kids or the band kids, and then there were the athletes, and then, or some people, they're all mixed together. It depends on the region of the country and the environment set by the teachers, really, doesn't it? So, but anyway, there's a social aspect. Some of the students are in there for the social benefits. What else?
Well, I joined course because I just enjoy it. I mean, that's the bottom line for me.
Okay. Personal enjoyment. It's just fun. They get some pleasure out of it. What else?
I don't know if this is the main reason, but I know that I've heard parents say they want their kids to join chorus because they are acquiring a skill.
Okay.
Like they are learning something, whether it's musical knowledge or...
To develop skill. Let me just throw out some other ideas for you. What if it's a cultural thing? What's really popular in schools right now? Is it going to be your chorus or the guitar class? That's probably going to be the most popular in some of the high schools around here. Yeah, I know. I happen to know at some of the high schools around here, guitar classes have a waiting list of sometimes 3 semesters before you can get in, 3 or 4. One of the schools had 300 kids waiting on the waiting list to get into a guitar class. So we would call that's a cultural thing, isn't it? Does our culture celebrate the guitar? Sure, and with good reason. What about students? Do students express themselves? Do they value that? Do they wear T-shirts at school that say, I'm a this or I'm a that, or promote their beliefs, or the way they wear their clothes, the way they dye their hair and pierce their faces? Everybody's trying to say something, expression. So could you be in there as an outlet, expressive outlet?
That's when Jamie Baxter tells people that his draw with music was that he just needed something, an outlet to express that was free of judgment and free of just where he could be.
Fantastic. So, and there's more. I mean, your students, they can feel just a sense of accomplishment. But the point of saying all this, there's all these reasons, and we don't necessarily have to compare one to the other. No, you should enjoy it versus this is something cultural you should experience to make your life rich. Or this is so you can be with your friends and do something together. It's not that they're opposed to one another, but rather just expressing different reasons people do. What are the different reasons people do? And how is that going to influence your philosophy for your choral program? Is it going to influence, are these ideas going to influence what songs you select to do? Okay? You ever hear of teachers doing a pop concert? Are you all pop choral fans, big time? Like you're into pop choral music? Yeah, she's not here. But she is. So, but what if your students are? Does that change your philosophy? Can you find a pop choral piece that's going to accomplish one of your goals versus forcing all of your goals for your students to come through the music that you choose, that you think they should, So learning to identify some different ways to accomplish the same goal. So whatever your philosophy is, how can I accomplish that? Well, let's look at a couple more. What about your community? Why does your community, how are they involved in your program? Why are your parents involved? Their kids are involved. But when you were in grade school and your parents would go to a concert, do you think they went when you're in kindergarten or first grade because you sound so amazing? Is it art at its highest pinnacle of greatness? Why do parents participate in those events? What's the benefit for the parent? Why do they put their kids in it? Because parents do this privately, even outside of the school. They put their students, they give them lessons on the flute, and then they go sit down at a recital and they listen to their kid play the flute. And does the kid always sound fantastic? No, but is the parent happy?
They're emotionally invested.
Okay, they're emotionally invested. What were you going to say? Supportive. Just pride. What would be the main thing going through your head? You lean over and tell your buddy, that's my kid. That's mine. He's playing the flute. You don't care what it sounds like. So there's that parent, just a pride thing. And that's half your parents' involvement right there. Parents are into whatever the children are into, if they're supportive parents. And they value that. Just because the student is involved. So that makes you realize, oh, the parents aren't all excited just because I'm doing this piece by Brahms, and they love Brahms. No, they're excited about Brahms because Johnny is excited about Brahms. And that gives you a different perspective maybe on what you might do with your program. And parents get their kids involved. You said it a while ago. It's just something to do. It's art, an expressive outlet. People want their kids to be involved in art or art activities a lot. They value that. Parents, in some ways, value.
Well, and sometimes they value it just because it's something they couldn't do or they
Okay.
didn't have access to. So sometimes it's a little bit, I think, of living through their kids, which is a big deal, for some of them who weren't able to have flute lessons or piano lessons or guitar lessons to see little Johnny up there because they couldn't.
Yeah. They want to provide opportunities for their children that maybe they didn't have. That would be one reason, for sure. So if you're building a program for your community, what would be some of your goals of your program? What would you want to accomplish for the community? If you want to make the community happy and say, oh, what a fantastic program, what would you want to do, or how would you accomplish that?
Well, you want to perform things that the community likes.
Okay, so it also could have entertainment value.
Like if you're in Backwoods, Arkansas, you don't want to play the
Hey,
whole Brahms.
no offense, right?
No offense. I'm
Yeah.
from Backwoods, Kentucky.
Yeah, okay. So, what we're saying is it could have entertainment value. In addition to just the parents' pride, they could say, oh, that was a wonderful concert. They could actually say, I love that song. And the community can be involved that way. They're entertained.
Well,
Go ahead.
the community is also, I think, one of the reasons that it's important, not that you want to turn it into chorus, into this money-making venture, but in order to get funding from the community in things like bake sales and boosters and whatever you're going to do, the community, there needs to be some draw. So observing the culture in the community, as far as socioeconomic status, as far as ethnicities, you're going to want to pay attention to the culture because that's where your funding is coming from.
Right. I think chapter 8 or 9 is the selection of materials. And Some of that is going to have to do with what the community wants. Sometimes, if we go into community, I got a call from one principal who I had applied for a job. I hadn't even applied for a job. Someone had given them my name, and they wanted me to come interview for this position. And they said, "Now we are show choir people. That is what we do: show choir, show choir, show choir." And that's all they did. That's all their high school choral program was. And that community, it was fantastic. The administration was excited because why? This was a principal who talked about show choir like it was fantastic. Now, I've not heard many administrators talk about any choir in that way. So it was very interesting to me. Show choir is fantastic, said the principal. We love it. This is what we do. Why would he say that? Well, part would be because the community values show choir. But is show choir really the entire...
It's more what the students want. If the student is excited about that, you don't want to hire somebody who doesn't know anything about show choir, who hates show choir, who's not going to do a show choir, because that's going to bring down the students, and then he's going to have parents on his back.
Okay, so the administration, here's what administrators get excited about. Student involvement and students doing good things. Because it reflects, because they are connected to the community as well, right? And if the community isn't happy, why don't we have this? Why don't we have a, that's how the sports teams come into being. We need a football team. The other schools have a football team. We want one. We want our kids to play. We want our kids to, and so we want our kids to be involved in the music program. Administration is directly connected to the community as well. And this is who we serve, the community as well as serving the student. So this is going to influence what it is that you select for your choirs to do based on what the community wants. And so you're going to see in chapter 8 or 9 that they're going to talk about what music can you do and what music shouldn't you do. And a lot of that's going to have to do with this right here. For example, across the country, there are lots of problems right now with religious pieces in schools. And different people deal with it differently. Now, this is in public school settings. So can you imagine a setting where it's inappropriate at a school to do a Christmas program and the community won't tolerate it? Can you imagine a community that's like that? Yeah. Can you imagine a community that wants a Christmas program and you better have it or else they want that program? Well, yes, of course. It was that way at one of the high schools where I taught. Because the community itself, even though this was a public school, was a very religious community. Everybody in the community was heavily involved in their church programs. So the Christmas programs were just a part of the culture of that school and that institution. But in some places it's problematic. So, if you go into a community where it's problematic for the students or for the community, are you going to push what your agenda is on that community? Or are you going to... And it starts to get more complicated, doesn't it? And this is where your philosophy comes in. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Because that question that you're asking yourself can be measured simply by saying, what are my goals? Once you establish your goals, then there are several paths to accomplish those goals, correct? Okay? And then you have to ask yourself, do I need joy to the world on a Christmas program to accomplish one of my foundational philosophical points? Or can I do that with something else? And you're going to be selecting materials based on social agenda. A lot of the pieces that you see are going to promote one idea or another in the text. Choral music is kind of unique in this way. It's text. And once you have a text, you're promoting a point of view, a philosophy, or an idea. So these are just things that you want to think about. Let's look at you for just a minute. It's the only part that we haven't looked at. And this is going to be how you view music. What is its value to you? How is it important for you? Because those are a lot of the ideas that if you want to teach, there's some reason why you want to do this. You're into it. You like it. You value music for some reason. And you value choral music for some reason. What are those reasons? Can you think of some reasons why you are here right now?
It could be from past experiences that kind of bring you to where you are now.
Okay, such as, and more specific.
Previous ensembles.
Okay, so what you're getting at is whenever you were in an ensemble, it had some sort of meaning for you. You valued it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
What students will usually describe, they say, I have a what for music? Passion. Oh yes, it's always the word passion. I have a passion for music. It's meaningful. They value it, right? Little 14-year-old girls cry when they hear sad songs on the radio, right? Oh, it's very... and then you can have that in any sort of, as you get older, maybe it's not that same sentiment, but you hear a song and maybe you think it is beautiful, or maybe you think it is meaningful in some way. So passion, and I'm going to include the word meaning with that. You value it. You're finding some meaning in what it is that you do. What else? Is there any social value for you guys? With your peers? With music as a social event? Do you value it for any of those reasons? Some people do. I would venture to say all people do in some
Yeah,
way.
to some extent.
So there, you have the social as well as the student. And then, when you're talking about music, well, the primary emphasis on music, is it the visual, is it the touch, the textile, or is it the aural, or smell? I mean, which sense is mostly? Yeah, it's an aural. We have all these senses, but mostly aural. Visual is involved, but it's aural. And so here we have sound. And we interact with sounds. And then all of a sudden, we start to get into preference. Okay? Or there's things called formalism. We're not going to talk about these in detail in this class, but formalism, how the music is put together, matters to you. Some people, they love classical music, and one of the reasons they love it is because they're fascinated with the organization of it. It's much like a person who loves football, and one person loves football because they hit each other really hard, and you're like, whoa, did you see that? And then other people like football because of the organizational aspects. Did you see that play that they ran? Other people look at football as, that was a good acquisition to get that player. That was a smart move. And they look at it as a strategy to build a team. That's their fascination with it. That's kind of like formalism. It's like a general manager in a professional sport. They love to see how the thing is organized artfully, like an architect would look at a building and how it's structured, how it's built, what are its foundations. And then you also have praxialism, which is doing music, playing music. I value music because it's something you do. I value doing music. You can have intellect. You can just have intellectual. Music makes me think. And sometimes, with your passion and meaning, sometimes you can be it can be an expressive outlet, like your students. All of these would apply, but it can also be Um, Interaction with music itself can be a form of self-exploration, a way to discover things about yourself, the same way you would if you were reading poetry or if you were doing an activity where there's some accomplishment and some skill acquisition. So anyway, now back to your assignment. You could build these, and this is just a perspective. This is not the way things are. This is a perspective of the way things are. But maybe it will give you some ideas about how to develop your philosophy. Who are you going to consider in your philosophy? Mostly you, because it's your philosophy. What other people think right now is secondary. But obviously in your philosophy, you're saying, what I think is important for other people. And in that way, your philosophy has to be connected to students and the community and the administration and the professionals around you. Because you're saying what I want to do is valuable for other people. And the first question the administration says is, why is it valuable? What good is it? What is it for? What does it do? How will it help my students? How will it help my school? How will it help our community? How will it help our nation? How will it help our world? And these are all issues in music education that people talk about and they write about. And so, what is your view? And that's what you want to do with the philosophy. Most importantly, make sure it's yours and not somebody else's as you put that together. It's not important to be right or wrong. It's important to articulate what you think. That's the most important goal.